I could identify with just a little part of it. So I continued to go twice a week to the meetings, and they're very good about, you don't have to participate. You can just sit there and listen, and whether you want to be involved with the feelings check, you can. And you just share whatever you feel like, but at the end of the meeting, they're always there for you. And I was fortunate enough to meet some people there that when we had both come in at the same time, and we have become very good friends. And I know that when I just need somebody to talk to, or if I'm, we do share the same circles.
Sure.
Only we call it green, yellow, and red.
Okay.
So we have this phrase of "crazy red girl" comes out, and that's stuff that we're not supposed to be doing,
checking stuff,
the email,
yeah.
checking the cell phone, and that just takes you into places that, you don't want to go, and become this person that you don't want to be. And so, we would laugh that, okay, crazy red girl almost came out, but now she's back.
Right.
Now she's gone.
That's awesome that they have a place. Would you suggest that people, okay, let's just say that they suspect that their partner, may have a sexual addiction. Will you recommend that, the partner itself goes to meetings just to hear about it for themselves, whether or not this other one's had a diagnosis? Would you recommend that?
I think it would be just to educate yourself.
Okay.
Educate yourself, because a lot of times we hear on our side of the scope, sometimes the men think that we're going to tell them, "Oh, leave your husband," but that's not what it's about. It's about to educate yourself about this
you.
addiction.
Mm-hmm.
It's about you and getting, doing your 12-step program, and whatever path you choose. That's your decision, and nobody is going to judge you and tell you what you should be doing, because that's not what that is. We're there to support your journey, your path into your recovery, as well as trying to either make the marriage work or whatever. So with that, yeah, I would recommend, even if you suspect. I mean, many women come and go and they're still in denial.
Sure,
they come
sure.
and they go, no, and that they're still in denial. And then they'll come back 3 or 4 months later, There's also been young couples that they didn't even know that their spouses had this addiction prior to them being married, and 6 months later, it shows up.
Well, that's true. When I was doing the research, I was surprised that the average age of diagnosis is 24 years old male. It's not 40 or 56-year-old. It's 24-year-old guys, because, they grew up on the Internet. The average age that a person is exposed to pornography is 9 years old. So it's happening between the ages of 6 and 12. Yeah. Like my husband was saying, when he was a young boy, his older brothers had, had porno magazines, the Playboy, and they were checking out the pictures. But the stuff that they have online now is so just graphic. Even for me, I was like, whoa.
Compared to when I was a kid, yeah. When I was a kid, you hoped that the rental property down the road with the college students threw out a dirty magazine type thing. But nowadays, it's so accessible.
It is. And
It is.
And these boys get online, they start growing, they're on the video games, they're looking at porn at 10, 11, 12 years old. At 13, when they mature, other things start occurring. And, before you know it, they're 19, 20 years old with this addiction.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and just with the research that I found, it does start, and it just tends to skew their views on women, and and with women, and we know it's not about us,
right.
But it still affects your self-esteem, because
Absolutely.
As a woman, you're thinking, oh, was that acting out Parker younger, prettier, thinner?
Sure.
What is it about her that,
yes.
She had that I didn't? And I remember this one young girl, she came in, she was the Barbie doll, and it was like, oh, okay, because that was part of her codependency, was being the Barbie doll that her partner wanted. That was, and even though she didn't like it, she still did it.
And
thinking that if I do what he wants, then he won't go acting out, and that's not.
That has nothing to do with that.
It doesn't have anything to do with it, exactly.
It has
nothing.
They're
going to act out, and there's nothing that you can do except get your own self healthy.
Absolutely, and I when I was younger, I was in a relationship with someone who cheated on me, and at first I was in denial. I didn't believe it. I tried to do everything perfect. I became a perfect size 4. I dressed perfect. I acted perfect. I did everything perfect. Whatever he wanted. Sexually, whatever. And you know what? It wasn't. And I made it about me, and it wasn't about me. And then when I became an addict, I realized, all the stuff that I put on people, they're trying to keep up with me, and I'm like, no, this doesn't have anything to do with you. And your self-esteem does go down, because especially, with sex, it's like, how can you compete with that? But it's at the same time, it's a drug. It's the drug of choice.
It is, because I know the second time that he acted out, it just triggered it really triggered my overeating, and I started smoking. And I hadn't smoked, and I had, lost some weight, and it was like I just wanted to eat and smoke. Mm-hmm. And I smoked like 2 packs a day.
Sure.
Because it was just something that it just triggered it, and that was my trigger of, I would get up and I would smoke, and when I would think about it, or when I would get into that zone where I wanted to look on the internet or check, everything that he had, his pocket, then it was like, well, I got to cut off the computer. So I have to limit myself on the computer. I only have to be on the computer when it's for homework.
Sure.
And then that's it. Because that is one of my triggers.
Absolutely, and as codependents, we have triggers as well. And we've been having such a great conversation, and I don't want to end, but I do want to ask a couple more questions before we go. And this is for both of you. About rebuilding trust and developing compassion again. Is it possible to build trust and compassion again, between each other? And what steps did you guys have to take to do this?
Well, I know for me to rebuild the trust, I have to be in the program, working my program. Mm-hmm. If she's not seeing that, then she's not going to trust me. She's not going to, want to stay with me. And
sure.
I know if for me, I want to live the rest of my life. She's the love of my life. Mm-hmm. She always has been, mm-hmm. and like we mentioned before, it really didn't have anything to do with her, but it does definitely affect her. And the trust between us has just been destroyed. I don't know if that will ever get totally repaired, but for some reason she's still here supporting me. I don't know what that is. Why? I think that's the same reason that she loves me.
She believes in you.
Yeah, and we've been together. We grew up together pretty much. Almost. So
that's wonderful. How about for you, Carol? Did you have any? How are you with the trust and compassion? Is there any steps that your program helps you with that, or?
When it happened, a very good friend of mine, she was telling me when she was in her recovery. She's a recovering alcoholic. She said, "Honey, it's a whole new dance." Okay. And it is. It's you literally. I literally had to mourn the marriage that we had in order to build the marriage that we have now.
I understand.
And you do. You have to mourn that because you're never going to get that back. And it's just something that you work at every day. But if you have that commitment and that foundation, it will work, and I don't know, there was somebody that told me, this is, when we decided to stay, this is what we expect. and this disease is still the redheaded stepchild of
absolutely
addiction.
It is.
And trust me, I've heard many women in my group say, "Dang, why couldn't he have been a drug addict or an alcoholic?" I mean,
yeah, that's easy too, right?
Yeah, but I mean that would be like the easier addiction.
Absolutely, and I would agree. I can see that. I can certainly see that.
But an addiction is an addiction, and I mean, I don't like his addiction, but him as a person, he's a good man, and we've always had good times, and yes, we've had our bad times and stuff, but overall, I mean, I just don't like his addiction.
You have a good foundation, you had a good marriage, and it's got a big bump in the road right now. And what you two are doing are learning how to navigate that bump. And just because we have these things come up, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to throw the relationship away. Times get tough, and we have to get the help that we're doing. And if everyone's on board doing their thing, it's that was just the case that you two were dealt. Now, I did want to put out the number, Leaf, because
did you want me to invite our listeners again to call in?
Want to see if
we
anyone
haven't had
can
any
call-ins
yet, but
we'll put a number up.
We could extend the show a little bit if someone wants to call in.
We can go a few minutes longer, sure.
Our number is 480-409-0773. Feel free to give us a call if you want to tell your story or maybe ask a few questions.
Sure, absolutely, because I know, I had some questions myself, and that's why I was asking this here. And, I wanted to ask you both, too, how has coaching and hypnotherapy and any of those processes, how have they helped you?
Well, for me, I went through life coaching, and that's like for me, it was like going through the 12 steps all over again, only more intense. And the hypnotherapy also helped too. Okay. And as I was going through life coaching, and especially as I was going through hypnotherapy classes, Pete was my guinea pig. He was my test subject.
So how was that?
Actually, I mean, he found it beneficial. I took him through a therapy session that, where he actually met his addiction. And, he just was really, I think that's
powerful.
More for him to realize, that was that, shadow side.
It's hard to face that too, it took hypnotherapy really for me to see it, and to you have to face it, and you have to have the courage, which I know that Carol has tons of courage just to stay with me, every day. So I have to have that courage too, to face up what I've done, and to stop doing what I'm doing, and to just don't do it anymore. So I have to keep at it. It's pretty much a lifelong thing.
It is, and when I was on my last show, I was talking about, I've been an addict for 30 years. Between alcohol and drugs, and no matter what I did, I could just not kick that monkey off my back. I would go from thing to thing to thing, and I've heard that happens too with people. They've been a drug addict, they've been an alcoholic, they end up a sex addict because there's no chemicals involved, and it's the one thing to do. But for me personally, hypnotherapy was the only thing that has finally helped me, because I did have to meet my addiction. I had to go back, I had to regress, I had to look at what was my root cause, and the only way that I found that was by regressing. And I had been to AA, I had been to NA, I'd been to a psychologist, my parents took me to hospitals and doctors, and nothing helped me until I got involved with hypnotherapy, and it removed all of that, that crap, I call it, that
block.
All that stuff, So I was kind of curious how that worked with you guys. So
it sounds about the same for me. It's because it's hard to think back, because when you're in your addiction, I don't know, I don't remember. It's not like I remember every little thing I did. It's kind of cloudy. You just buzzing, doing it. So,
yes.
Hypnotherapy strips all that away, and you can see things a lot clearer, in my experience anyway.
Sure.
Kind of see them for what they really are.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
And then you have to face them.
Now, Pete and Carol, I'd like to ask one more thing. Is there any advice or anything at all that our listeners, need to know about sex addiction, or anything that we haven't covered that both you personally want to say?
That you want to say, yes, please.
I would think that if you are looking to recover, go online, and I know